Hey guys, today's video I am going to share wholesaling for beginners. In fact, I'm going to break down my very first deal that I started way back in 2017 that generated this first check, which I have framed in my office back in March of 2017. If you guys don't know who I am, I'm Jeremy Beelan. I specialize in off-market acquisitions. Since 2017, I have grown multiple seven-figure markets and have gone on to do well over 425 off-market deals. In fact, we do millions of dollars in wholesaling business every year in our markets. So I'm super excited to give you guys some high-level acquisition skills in these videos. But today, we're going to keep it super basic, super simple, and talk about the very, very first deal. And I'll tell you, your very first deal isn't a great one. You typically don't make a lot of money out of it, but what's great about it is the power of belief. That is way more powerful than any amount of money that you can receive in your first deal. Because when you get that first deal closed and you get that check, you're like, I can do this. This is crazy. Holy mackerel, this works, right? And it's just that power of belief is really what propels you and motivates you to keep moving forward, because up until that point, you may be really discouraged and wanting to quit, and it's really hard because you're so new and you're trying to learn something new, whether you're going through coaching or have a mentor, right, or a mentorship program, whatever the case is. It's really hard to get your first deal because you're brand new to it, and that's totally fine, and it's understandable. But with that being said, a lot of us get really discouraged and want to quit, and then all of a sudden that first deal hits and it's like, yeah, we did it. Awesome. So I'm going to just break down the basic steps of what I did back in 2017 that went on to make me get my very first deal. And it was about 90 days of a whopping $5,000. And, that deal gave me the power of belief, right? And here we stand in 2024, and I've done well over 425 off-market deals. We're approaching $8 million, eight figures. Sorry, $8 million was a little while ago. 8 figures in gross profit since started this business. It's just like mind-blowing. If you would have asked me back then when I started if that was possible, no. Probably wouldn't even believed you a couple of years in, because it just seems so far off. But the longer you're in this game, the better you get, the more you invest in yourself, invest in your team, invest in personal development, invest in coaching, invest in your company. You just get better, just like anything else, right? You learn and practice, learn and practice, learn and practice. And the more you learn and the more you practice the things that you learn, the better you get. Wholesaling is no different, and it's a game changing. All right, so let's break down my very first deal. I started actually buying a coaching program in late 2016, had absolutely no money, big fat zero. I actually ended up selling the townhouse that I owned because I was a divorced dad with 2 kids, and the only money that I had was tied up in a little bit of equity in a condo, like a townhome that I owned, bought just a couple years earlier. So I had a little bit of equity in there. That was the only money I really had, and I've been wanting to get into real estate for a long time. I just was afraid to pull the plug or pull the trigger, and then I decided, you know what, I'm gonna go all in. So I ended up selling my townhouse, and I got a whopping $17,000 in equity out of that. Moved my family into a tiny little 2-bedroom apartment in not such a nice area, and I was all in. Like, that was all the money I had left, and it had to work or else I was screwed. So I took that $17,000. I paid $6,000 in some credit card debt that I accrued. I spent $5,000 to get me into the coaching program to teach me how to wholesale my first deal. And $6,000 was my initial budget to start my business, which included me getting my purchase and sales contracts drafted from an attorney, my assignment contracts drafted from an attorney, having them set up an LLC for me, and then my initial marketing budget, which is how I got my first deal. So that $6,000, that $11,000, if you include the coaching program, got me to do my first deal, but has got me to a point where I am today. It was the stepping stone. Now, obviously, I've had a lot more coaching, invested a lot more time and money and energy into coaching and personal development since then. That is the reason why I'm still here, because I'm constantly trying to grow and get better. But the very first deal was just based off of $11,000. That whole first year was based off of $11,000 that I took out of the equity from selling my house and starting my business, and it was the greatest decision I ever made. Was it scary? Yes. Did I think I was going to fail many times over? Yes. Did I have many doubts along the way that it wasn't going to work and all those things? Yes. But I just kept pushing forward. So let's break down the very first deal. All right. So I took that $5,000. I hired a coach. Tom Kroll was my coach back then. It was Wholesaling Inc. That coaching program basically taught you how to wholesale your first deal from start to finish, and had all these actionable steps. Every day you would get a little actionable step of something you needed to do. Build a buyer's list, pull a list, create a mailing template, like just all these different things, right? And how to get different lists. And it was just amazing. I remember going through it and being like, wow, there's so much more to this than I ever realized. I thought I knew and understood everything from wholesaling, from watching YouTube videos and, listening to podcasts and reading a ton of books. But there was so much I didn't know, really just the devil in the details and when to do things at certain times. It's just like, I was just, wow, there's so much to this. Even though I thought I already knew it, there was just so much I didn't know. So that coaching program was the greatest decision I've ever made. Hired a coach for $5,000. Then I paid an attorney to draft up my purchase and sales agreement. I wanted to make sure that my purchase, this again was guided by my coach. Make sure you have a local real estate attorney draft up a purchase and sales agreement that is compliant for your state. And I made it as easy as possible. Got a ton of stuff out of there, but just made sure the seller was protected, the buyer was protected, and I tried to just make it as few words as possible while keeping it compliant. Had them do the same with an assignment contract. So when I got a purchase and sales agreement and needed to assign it to a cash buyer, I had an assignment contract that had all that language in there because I really didn't know about any of that stuff, right? And then I had the attorney then create my LLC, which is New Hampshire Home Buyers LLC. That was my very first home buying LLC, and created the documents that I needed for that. So that was out of that $6,000 I had. Some money went into that. I found a title company, found a real estate attorney, and then the rest was really towards marketing. So what I did from there is I went to this company called Lead Source, and I pulled a absentee owner equity list. This is what my coach told me to do back then. So we just pulled an absentee equity owner. I pulled it in like a couple different counties that it was where I live, and then we pulled that list. From there, I then went to a company called 3D Mail out of Washington. This is who they recommended us to use at the time. And we used this like super basic, like 3x5 white postcard. It looked like it was handwritten font on it. And it just basically said, dear homeowner, if you're looking for a fair as is cash offer for your property at 123 Main Street, please call or text the number below. And that was it. I mean, it may have been slightly different, but that was the gist of it. It was super vanilla. White postcard, black font, and that was it. And, so what we did, we started sending out 1,000 a week with those. So fortunately for me, because I am not the analysis paralysis type, I am definitely fail forward and progress not perfection type, and almost too fast, I ended up not proofreading the phone number on that first mailing. And I didn't catch it until after the first 2,000 mailings went out. Now, keep in mind, I have a budget now left of about $5,000. I just spent $1,000 in the first 2 weeks of mailing, and the phone number was wrong. Yep, I forgot. Well, I didn't double check the number to make sure that it was the number that was supposed to be, because I went on this company called Call Fire. That was another thing that my coach told us to do, is to use this third-party online call phone number company that it's just like a call capture. We use CallRail today. So basically what happens is they give you a phone number, and the phone call comes in, it captures it there, then it can be redirected to a landline or your cell phone, which it is. And if for some reason you don't pick up, it'll keep a voicemail and just records everything in there. So I had a phone number, sent it out to the mailing company saying this is the phone number to use. They sent it back, said, hey, please review this. I'm like, all right, looks good. Never even really looked at it because I was working a full-time job around the clock. And that's just how I roll. So after I find out the phone isn't ringing for a couple weeks, panic starts to set in, right? You're like, oh my God, I've just spent all the money I have. All this mailing went out and nothing, the phone isn't ringing. What is going on? I was like really like sick to the stomach, panic. And then I go to the post office box because we have return mailing. I'm looking at it. I'm like, holy smokes, it's the wrong phone number. So now I'm trying to get the phone number, see if it's an active phone number, and I'm trying all these different techniques. Phone number's not available. So I sent out 2,000 mailings. Phone number's not available. People are calling that phone number, and it's a dead phone number. Oh my God. So get another phone number, or get the right phone number, call the mailing company, say, all right, my mistake, wrong phone number, please use this phone number. So I started sending it out. I remember talking to somebody saying, I got a letter from you and I tried calling and I couldn't get through the phone number. And so I'm glad you finally answered. But, that's what happens, man. We make mistakes, right? It's never going to be perfect. So that was my big, hey, idiot, welcome to wholesaling. You better pay attention. But it all worked out, right? It all worked out. Just goes to show you can mess up many times over, but it always works out. Just got to keep going. So mailings go out 1,000 a week, right? So that's what we're doing. 1,000 a week, absentee owner equity list, basic white generic handwritten postcard, and that's going out. Then finally, after the right numbers, the phone starts to ring. I'm like, oh, thank you, Lord. Phone's ringing. Call Fire at the time. Call Rail we use today, but Call Fire is now generating it. I have a call script, right? An incoming call script that my coach provided. So every time the phone rings, I am going through this list of questions and topics to talk about to identify, is this a right fit? Is there equity in this home? What are they looking for a value in the property? Is it motivation, right? We're looking over all these questions, and we need to know before we go on an appointment. So I'm going through this, so I getting some appointments, and it leads me to my very first contract appointment. Not my very first appointment, but my contract appointment. So this was a lady that was out of state. This was in New Hampshire. She actually lived up in Maine, which is north of New Hampshire, a couple hours away. She owned this house and it was sitting vacant. She had it for a family member. The family member then passed away and she's just been sitting on the house for a while. She was thinking about fixing it up, put it on the market, but being so far away, she wasn't able to. She actually grew up in Russia near Chernobyl. And if you guys know what Chernobyl is, it's like a nuclear power plant that had some kind of meltdown and a radiation leak back in like the 80s, I think it was, and a lot of people were affected. It's still pretty highly heavy with radiation after all these decades later, and as a result of growing up around there, she battled cancer numerous times throughout her life. Now this lady was probably in her late 60s, early 70s. I don't know for sure, just going off memory. And so she drove down from Maine. I met her at the house vacant. She's telling me the story, and what she needs to sell this house because now she's on her third round of cancer. She's already beat it twice, and she got it again the third time because she's been battling her whole life. And I guess she couldn't do radiation or chemotherapy another time due to how many times before, and she was looking to do this just this new state-of-the-art procedure which insurance wouldn't cover. So she needed to sell this house, take the cash from that, and then she was going to do the state-of-the-art treatment out of pocket with the cash out in Chicago to help beat cancer, which she had now for the third time. So obviously a lot of motivation, but a stern old Russian lady, if you could think of like a big, haughty Russian lady with her accent living up in Maine and the, boondocks of Maine, and just tough lady. But we talked, we had a good meeting. I tried to identify what her motivation was. Again, this is my very first appointment, right? Or my first few appointments. I don't know what I'm doing. Literally no idea. I don't know how to, negotiate pricing. I don't know really how to build rapport. I don't really know how to identify what problems she has and how I can provide a solution. I didn't really know any of that stuff. I was just feeling forward, right? And that's what I did. And then we ended up getting the property under contract at a price that she needed to be. I had a feeling it was too high. I was right. I'll explain why in a second. But hey, she signed a contract. I keep wanting to swear. Holy smokes. She signed a contract. I finally have my very first contract, right? Woo! It's an exciting feeling, you know, after everything that I've already invested to get into this point. So she, she signs the contract. I say, all right, here's what we're going to do, because this is how our coach told us. This is how we teach our students. We're going to do an inspection walkthrough, an open house, more or less. And I'm going to open up the house, and I need you to come down here, open it up for an hour. I'm going to have all these investors walking through. They're going to come do their own due diligence, and then the next day they're going to give me a price of what they wanted, and I'm going to sign the contract to one of those guys. They're going to make a few bucks and get you your property sold for you in the next 30 days, get you your money. It's a win-win. She's like, awesome, let's do it. So she drives all the way down from Maine. It's like a 2-hour drive, by the way, maybe even longer. She comes down, we schedule this inspection. I have buyers, again, brand new, don't have a lot of buyers at this point, probably have somewhere around 50. And you should have a minimum of 150 before you get your first wholesale deal. Something my coach told me. Did I listen? No. I'm like, I don't feel like working on buyers. That's boring. That's lazy. I don't want to deal with that. That's not fun and exciting. I want to talk to sellers. Well, it kicked me in the ass on the way out or afterwards, because I should have listened, because when we had the inspection, nobody showed up. She drives a couple hours down, opens up the house. I come meet her. I'm all excited. I'm like, this is awesome. We're going to get this thing assigned today. And nobody shows up. I'm like, completely embarrassed. You know, I'm like, what did I do? And it was really because 2 reasons. 1, the price of the property was too high, right? But 2, I didn't have enough cash buyers on my buyers list. I only had like 35, right? So some of those guys, I looked at it and said, oh, that number's too high. Now, if I had hundreds and hundreds of thousands, people would have shown up that day. But I didn't. So I learned 2 things that day. My price was too high. I didn't have enough cash buyers. Okay. So I tell her, I say, all right, I'm really, really sorry that nobody showed up. Let me make some phone calls and I'll get back to her. I call her the next day. And I say, here's the situation. I've talked to some of the buyers and they just said the price is too high. We need to be at a different price if you want to get this work. And she was really stern on price. She was money motivated. Didn't really know how to overcome that at the time. And she gave me a reduction though, because she's like, all right, I need to get this sold. I see that you're working hard. Let's get this thing done. So she gives me a reduction. I want to say it was like 20 grand. Still wasn't enough. But I also, after talking to my coach, he's like, dude, you don't have enough buyers. So I said it. Getting as many buyers as I can, have another inspection a week later. Now I'm trying to get as many buyers. I have about probably 50 to 70 at this point a week later, and have a reduction. Have another inspection. She drives all the way down from Maine a second time, really a third time if you include her meeting me at the house where we signed the contract. She comes down and we have like 3 people show up. And none of the 3 are like, it's just too high. The numbers don't work. I'm like, okay. Now I'm like ready, my tail's between my legs, right? I'm ready to hide under a rock. And, you know, because I was very honest with her and very transparent about everything that was going on, she knew that I was trying really hard. She knew that I was new, obviously, right? She fell for me. And because I told her what we were trying to achieve here by assigning it and wholesaling it, she's like, hey, listen, I really want this to work for you. Let's do this number, but this is the absolute lowest I can do. If you can do this number, let's get the deal done. I said, okay, let's have 1 more inspection. So now I get my second price reduction. I go in for my 3rd inspection. She comes down a week after that. Now it's our 4th time down. Talk about building rapport, right? This lady could have kicked me to the curb at any time. And this is all my first deal, just completely having no idea what I'm doing. So again, I'm trying to get more buyers and we get a better list. Next thing you know, the week later, we have about 15 people to show up. Thank you, Lord. At least I'm not just sitting there for an hour talking to her while nobody shows up, feeling completely embarrassed and shamed again. And sure enough, somebody came in with an offer on the spot. I didn't really know how to work my buyers to get more money out of them. Again, I was just like, oh my God, somebody wants it, please take it. And we went down to like a parking lot down the street at a gas station, signed this cheesy assignment contract, $5,000. She was completely thrilled. We closed a couple weeks later. The person that bought it was their very first deal, and brand new buyer who just bought a home investor franchise, and they were pumped. And, you know, we got the $5,000 check, which is right here. And it was March 27th, 2017. I started my business and officially started marketing the first week of January. So I got my first $5,000 within that first 90 days. I had to have 2 price reductions, 3 inspection walkthroughs, and finally got $5,000, which paid for my coaching program. So at this point, my coaching program was paid. I still was in the red because of marketing, but I at least had, the power of belief, got $5,000, got my first deal. She was thrilled. And I just filled my way to success. And then a few weeks after that, I got another $2,500 assignment. And then a few weeks after that, I got like a $7,000 assignment. And like a month after that, I got an $11,000 assignment. And next thing you know, I was in the black, starting to be profitable while working a full-time job as a divorced, parent of 2 kids. This is before me and Shelly blended our families like we are today. And I went on that whole first year to do 10 deals for a whopping $73,000. That $11,000 generated $73,000 gross that first year. Not a lot. I didn't really use my coaching enough. Could have done better, but I did 10 deals my first year. Failing forward while working full time, being a parent of 2 kids, coaching, traveling, you name it. There was a lot of obstacles. I did nights and weekends, but I did it. And it worked. And what's great about that first year, and I tell my coaching students all the time, is you build the foundation for something great. It takes a year of hard work and failing forward, massive imperfect action to build the foundation of something magnificent. So when you go into those next 12 months, after that initial 12 months, you built the foundation, it's built, right? You have the sturdy thing. And then it just starts to take off. Big momentum is on your side. And typically it's very common to see sometimes a 3, 4, 5x of that first year. We went on to do a few $100,000 the next year. And then after that, almost $1 million. And then I've been in the millions every year since. Just like that. And it all was because I sold my townhouse and I sent out mailings with the wrong phone number. And then I locked up a property too high and had to get 1 price reduction, a 2nd price reduction, had no buyers, had to learn about buyers. I failed myself forward all the way through that very first deal, $5,000, but I did it. And you can do it too. And that's the story of this. Is I broke down how I did it. But really the story of this lesson is progress, not perfection. Massive imperfect action. There's always going to be mistakes. Don't be afraid of them. Yeah, they suck. But you have to learn, right? That's how we're going to learn. And, you need good guidance. You need good coaching, but you need to just move forward and take action. A lot of people have analysis paralysis and looking for the perfect scenario and they're afraid of making mistakes, afraid of failing. Well, what you should be afraid of is actually not doing it and letting time go by where you could be making mistakes, but basically getting paid and generating revenue while you make mistakes and learn. So, I suggest today you guys get started right away. Find a way to make it work. But that's the very first deal. It's not going to go smoothly. A whole bunch of them after that did not go smoothly. They still don't always go smoothly today. After hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of deals, we still make mistakes. It's okay. It's just the way it is. Nobody's perfect, right? So, $5,000. Money means nothing to me on this check, but it all means is the power of belief that I could do this, and my life has been forever changed since that day. And all I want to do is give people like you that opportunity to have that feeling and build a life of REI freedom through wholesaling or off-market acquisition, just like I did. All right, guys, that's the video for today. Hope you really enjoyed it. I try really hard to provide a lot of value for you guys. There is a link in the description below. I'll be honest, it's a sales funnel offered to sell you something, but really the goal of these videos is to provide great value to you. If you did find value in this video, please do me a favor and subscribe to the channel so you and others can be notified of all future videos that I do, so we can help build this community of people succeeding with off-market acquisitions, right? That's what we're trying to do here. If you like this video, please hit the like button. Guys, you know how the algorithm on YouTube works, right? If you like this video, it's going to help you and others see this video, just like when you subscribe to it. It's going to help me build more value. So I hope you guys like it. Please If you haven't gone to our website, REI Freedom, to pull some of our free content, our free PDFs off, highly recommend you go to reifreedom.com and pull some free content off of there too. See you guys pretty soon.